team in the league. That don't matter when you standing in front of Caitlin Clark, Tiffany Hayes. I'm sorry. And all that yapping you was doing, that don't help, and that's not gonna stop her. If anything, you just gonna piss her off, and she really gonna destroy you like she did. That's all that was. Don't try to say, oh, it's because of us and no one else. Nah. There is no defense for somebody pulling up from half court. There is no defense for that. There's nothing you could do, Tiffany Hayes.
At the absolute highest level of professional sports, there's one rule that every veteran understands, whether it's spoken out loud or not. You never deliberately ignite a fire you can't control. You don't challenge a superstar who thrives under pressure. You don't antagonize a player capable of completely taking over a game once emotions enter the equation. And above all, you do not give a competitor like Caitlin Clark extra motivation on national television. But that is exactly what Golden State Valkyries guard Tiffany Hayes appeared to do last night. What started as a heated regular season matchup quickly transformed into something far more intense. The Indiana Fever's 90-82 victory was not simply another win in the standings. It became a highly visible showcase of momentum shifting in real time, where one player pushed the wrong button and another responded with complete control and ruthless precision. Welcome back to WNBA Pro. Today we're diving deep into one of the most emotionally charged and psychologically intense matchups we've seen this season. This wasn't just about Caitlin Clark putting up 22 points. The real story unfolded beneath the box score. This was about pressure, frustration, mind games, and a veteran defense slowly unraveling as the spotlight grew brighter. We're going to examine the exact moment the energy of the game changed, break down how Caitlin Clark flipped into an entirely different competitive mode, and look at why many fans are now criticizing the tone of Golden State's post-game reactions. Before tip-off, Valkyries head coach Natalie Nakazi clearly believed her team had found a formula to slow Clark down, but Golden State's defensive approach wasn't built around sophisticated schemes or elite tactical adjustments. Their strategy leaned heavily into physicality. From the opening minutes, the game plan was obvious. Be aggressive, disrupt her rhythm, fight through every screen with force, contest every movement, make every possession uncomfortable. Clark was bumped constantly, her movement was crowded, and defenders attempted to wear her down with non-stop pressure whenever she touched the ball. Early on, the approach seemed to create some success. The Valkyries brought intensity and made every possession difficult, but then came the turning point, the sequence that completely altered the emotional temperature of the game. That was the moment Tiffany Hayes made a decision that ultimately backfired in the biggest way possible.
Taking it to the rack here. Tiffany Hayes taking it to the rack on Caitlin Clark. Starts clapping in Caitlin Clark's face. Takes it to the rack on Caitlin Clark. Starts clapping in Caitlin Clark's face. Jaws at her right after. Jaws at her right after. At this point, do you know what Caitlin Clark said? And I'm going to bring back our...
Around the 3-minute mark of the opening quarter, Tiffany Hayes attacked the rim and finished through contact against Caitlin Clark. On its own, it was a routine basketball play. Nothing unusual, nothing game-changing. But what happened immediately afterward completely shifted the energy inside the arena. Instead of simply getting back on defense and moving on to the next possession, Hayes decided to make the moment personal. She turned directly toward Clark, stepped into her space, and began clapping aggressively right in front of her face. There was talking, posturing, and an obvious attempt to send a message both mentally and physically. The problem? That message was delivered to the wrong player. Caitlin Clark is not the type of competitor who shrinks when challenged. Throughout her entire basketball journey, she has built a reputation for responding to disrespect with ruthless production. The more emotion involved, the more dangerous she becomes. Hayes may have believed she was taking control of the matchup, but in reality, she triggered something far more dangerous. In that moment, the entire tone of the game changed. There's a reason elite players are usually handled carefully by opponents. You want stars like Clark operating comfortably within the normal rhythm of the game. You do not want to fuel their emotions or give them a personal reason to attack, because once that competitive fire gets lit, everything changes. And after that exchange, it was obvious Clark took it personally. Her body language shifted, her pace changed. The intensity immediately went to another level. This stopped feeling like a standard regular season matchup and started looking like a superstar making a statement. Every possession afterward carried extra purpose, extra aggression, and extra focus. What followed wasn't just a response, it was a calculated takeover. Clark didn't answer with words. She answered with execution, confidence, and complete control of the game. The retaliation came quickly, and it unfolded like a brutal lesson in what happens when you evoke one of the most explosive offensive players in basketball.
Caitlin Clark shoot it over her. She shot it over. Take a look at this. Take a look. She shot it over her and takes like an extra step and a half in Tiffany Hayes' direction to let her know you ain't shit. She takes an extra step and a half, boom, shoots it from the logo, lands, takes a couple extra steps just so Tiffany Hayes can feel her. And let us know, yeah, you ain't shit. Yeah, you ain't shit. Oh yeah, that's right. It's just me and you. The game, yeah, game on.
Then came the sequence that completely changed the feeling of the game and instantly became the moment everyone would be talking about afterward. Caitlin Clark brought the ball up the court and found herself matched up one-on-one with Tiffany Hayes. No screen, no reset, no hesitation. Clark calmly sized her up, drifted several feet beyond the arc near the logo, and launched an audacious deep three with Hayes pressuring directly in front of her. Nothing but net, but the shot itself wasn't the most damaging part. It was the reaction that followed. Clark didn't simply turn and jog back down the floor. She held the moment. After landing, she took a deliberate step toward Hayes and let her know exactly how she felt. The message was loud, confident, and impossible to miss. Clark made it clear that the earlier confrontation had only fueled her. The swagger, the stare, the trash talk, it all screamed one thing. The momentum of the matchup had completely shifted, and from that point forward, Hayes looked rattled. Later in the game, Clark attacked the matchup again. Isolated on the perimeter, she created space with a sharp step-back move and buried another difficult jumper over Hayes' defense. Possession after possession, Clark controlled the interaction. She dictated the tempo, manipulated the spacing, and forced Hayes into increasingly uncomfortable situations. It stopped looking competitive and started looking personal. But beyond the emotion and highlight clips, the numbers tell the real story. Before the confrontation with Clark, Tiffany Hayes opened the game red hot, knocking down her first 4 shots and playing with confidence and rhythm. She looked composed and aggressive, but after Clark drilled the deep logo 3 and turned the intensity up another level, Hayes' production completely fell apart. From that point on, she shot just 3 for 9 from the field, a dramatic drop in efficiency that mirrored the visible frustration in her game. The offense became rushed, forced, and out of sync. Instead of letting the game come naturally, Hayes began attacking recklessly, trying to force difficult finishes at the rim that simply weren't there. Several drives ended badly. Missed layups, awkward attempts off the glass, and possessions that felt more emotional than controlled. The composure she showed early in the game slowly disappeared as Clark continued applying pressure on both ends, and that's what made the entire sequence so fascinating. This wasn't just about scoring, it was about momentum, confidence, and emotional control. Clark refused to back down from the physicality or the trash talk, and once the game became psychological, she completely took over the matchup. But the most revealing part of the entire night didn't happen during the game itself. It happened afterward, inside the post-game press conference, where the Golden State Valkyries' response created an entirely new wave of controversy.
They're pissed. They're hit. Tip, before she even sat down, they're never going to start calling the fouls on her. If they did, she would never get to play the game. And this goes both ways. If you're going to be doing this, if you're going to be doing this on offense with the forearm, don't complain. If you're going to be doing this on defense, grabbing and scratching and clawing, don't complain.
Tiffany Hayes sat down at the microphone.
After the game ended, the attention quickly shifted from the court to the press conference room where Tiffany Hayes appeared visibly frustrated while addressing the media. Before questions had even fully started, she began voicing complaints about the officiating and suggested that Caitlin Clark gets away with too much contact during games. Hayes reportedly said they're never going to call fouls on her. If they did, she wouldn't even be able to stay in the game. And that comment immediately sparked backlash from fans watching the matchup unfold, because Throughout the night, Golden State's entire defensive approach revolved around playing Clark with extreme physicality. From the opening tip, defenders were crowding her space, grabbing through screens, bumping her off movement, and constantly testing how much contact the referees would allow. The Valkyries clearly wanted to make every possession uncomfortable and disrupt her rhythm any way they could. So hearing complaints afterward about Clark creating space offensively felt deeply ironic to a lot of viewers. You cannot spend an entire game pushing the limits physically, then suddenly act shocked when the opposing star responds with equal intensity and confidence. That's what made the post-game reaction so controversial. Many fans felt Golden State embraced a highly aggressive style all night long, but became frustrated the moment Clark answered back and took control of the matchup. And ultimately, that's exactly what happened. The emotional exchange early in the game seemed to ignite Clark instead of slowing her down. She responded with 22 points, multiple momentum-shifting shots, and complete command during the biggest moments of the Fever's 90-82 victory. The deeper the game went, the more comfortable and dangerous she looked. That's also why so many people around the league continue to view Clark differently from most young stars. Physical defense doesn't seem to intimidate her. Trash talk doesn't appear to shake her confidence. In many cases, the pressure and hostility only sharpen her focus. The more emotional the environment becomes, the more locked in she appears. And that's what makes her such a difficult matchup for opposing teams. If defenders try to play her softly, she controls the game with pace and vision. But if they try to rattle her mentally or physically, they risk activating an entirely different level of competitiveness. Against Golden State, it looked like the Valkyries crossed that line. What began as an attempt to challenge Clark turned into a nationally televised reminder of how quickly she can flip momentum and take over a game once her confidence catches fire. This is WNBA Pro. If you enjoy intense basketball breakdowns, emotional rivalries, and the real stories behind the headlines, make sure to subscribe and stay locked in for more coverage throughout the season. And now the biggest question is headed straight to the fans. Did Tiffany Hayes make a major mistake by escalating things with Caitlin Clark early in the game? Or was this simply the competitive fire that comes with elite basketball? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because the conversation around Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever, and the WNBA's growing intensity is only getting louder from here.